So with the Black Ops 6 beta being gone for a while now, I thought that this would be the best time for me to give my overall review of the game, just basically sharing my thoughts and opinions about what I experienced throughout the beta. Before we start, I want it to be known that my feelings about this game can change for better or worse when it comes to the full launch of this game, because this is in fact a beta, and it doesn't necessarily reflect the final quality of what the game can or cannot be. There could also be a lot of changes that can either further benefit or hinder this game, but when it comes to that, we'll just have to wait and see. But I want to let that be known for any future references. So similar to my review video from Modern Warfare 3, I'll just be going over aspects of the game that I did enjoy, as well as some of the concerning issues that's also in the game, along with a few features that I would love to see come back when we get to the launch. And if this is your first time watching this video or visiting my channel, I don't always do video game reviews. I mainly just post gameplay commentaries or highlights and cool stuff, whether I'm playing as a solo or with my friends. If you want to explore the channel even further, be sure to subscribe to see more. So to start things off on the things that I liked about this game, I want to talk about the biggest change that we have ever seen in a Call of Duty game, and that is the Omni movement. I think that this is one of the most innovative decisions that we've seen in a very long time, and the addition of Omni movement makes the game feel extremely fluid, giving the experience a certain rhythm, and it also gives everyone the ability to pull off some insane highlights and tactics. Just in case for those unaware of what Omni movement is, it's the ability to sprint, slide, and dive in any direction that you're moving. However, the only time you're able to attack sprint is when you're moving forward. Not sure how true this is, but I did read something about this being the new standard for future Call of Duty games for a long time, and if that is the direction that they're going towards, I personally think that they can pull it off. There wasn't ever really a time where I was in a game and gotten into any situations where the Omni movement was an issue for me. It was just a lot of fun. You could do a lot of cinematic stuff with it, and it just feels fun to do. So for the movement aspect of the game, Treyarch did a great job on that. We love to see that. Next, I wanted to talk about some of the gunplay, the customization, all that kind of stuff. I think that the gunplay is in a really good spot. Most of the weapons that I used were very solid, despite the fact that the Jackal PDW took over for basically an entire first week of the beta because it was just so crazy. But in the second week, I was able to branch out to some of the other weapons in this game, and all I was thinking about the entire time was how I should have just used them earlier, especially the assault rifles. Towards the end, I really started taking advantage of them, which was really fun. Weapons like the Amos 85, the Tonto 22 were fun to make videos on. Started to use the AK-74 towards the end, and the XM4, the C9, the list goes on and on. So I would say that almost every weapon is worth using in the game, and what I liked was that a lot of the attachments during the early levels were good enough to at least compete against weapons that were maxed out. There were barely any instances where I said to myself that I needed to max out a weapon in order for it to be good, except for maybe the Tonto because of rapid fire. Other than that, I didn't really have much of a problem with that, which was nice. During the first week, I did feel that weapon progression was a bit on the slow side, and it was very noticeable to the point where even Treyarch had to make changes in order for us to level up faster. Hopefully they don't revert back to what it was before, because that would not be good. Next, I want to talk a little bit about the field upgrades in the game, mainly the Sleeper Agent field upgrade. I think that Sleeper Agent is one of the best field upgrades that we have had in a long time. It is so much fun to use, and it kind of gives you the ability to sneak around and make some crazy plays if you're using it the right way. And for those who are unaware, Sleeper Agent is a field upgrade that disguises yourself as the enemy team, and if you're using it with like a silenced weapon, the ghost perk, and manage to not have your cover blown, 70 to 80% of the time the enemy team will never notice you, giving you a bit of leverage on the map to do things that you normally wouldn't be able to get away with. Lots of fun to use, and I'm actually looking forward to seeing that come back on launch. Moving on to the perk system, I think that the way it works in this game is very interesting, as to where you have 3 sets of perks in different colors, and if you equip 3 of the same color, then it activates a specialty that gives you an extra bonus ability depending on which one you choose. For instance, if you equip 3 red perks, you get an ability called Enforcer. which gives you a small boost to movement speed and health regeneration after each kill. So for an aggressive player such as myself, it only made sense for me to choose Enforcer. They do have another ability for the blue perks, I believe, that allows you to see players through walls every time you respawn, which sounds really cheesy, but I never really used it to know how effective it is. The wild cards are pretty much straightforward from the other Black Ops games: Gunfighter, Perk Greed, the usual stuff, which is nice to see make a return to this game. Not sure if there's going to be any more perks coming to the full release of the game, but from what we were able to use in the beta, I think it's balanced for the most part. The only perk that I would consider a crush perk would be Dexterity, if anything, but I don't think it's something that's entirely game breaking. So the perks are in a solid spot as well. Next, I want to talk about the sound design, mainly talking about the footstep audio. I do think that the footstep audio and like the sliding, the diving is very inconsistent in this game. There were moments where I was able to gauge where an enemy is, what floor they're on, if they're behind me, things like that. And then there were other times where I couldn't hear anything at all. And granted, this is without anyone using the ninja perk, because that perk wasn't even available until the second week in the beta, and these types of instances were still in this game. I don't think that they should have footsteps turned up to the way it was in Modern Warfare games, because that would just make Ninja a super crush perk, but I do think that they should at least fix the inconsistencies if someone isn't using Ninja. Moving on to the time to kill in this game, I do think that having 100 health in Black Ops 6 was a bold decision to make from Treyarch, mainly because their games are more on the spongy side. While I'm not really against them making this decision, I do think that 125 health instead of 100 would be a middle ground that would make the overall flow of the game a bit better. But I know that when it comes to that, it would mean having to retune almost every weapon in the game, which is something I just do not see them doing at all. Now we're going to be diving a little bit deeper into some of the things that I did not like about this game. Some of these things, again, are concerning issues that I think a good majority of people will be able to agree with me on. And I honestly hope that Treyarch will be taking these criticisms into consideration here. So the biggest problem that I've had in this game is, without a doubt, the packet bursting issues that was happening throughout the entire beta. Every single game that I played in this beta had stuttering issues that would happen every 30 seconds on average, and that is a serious issue. Not only is it very frustrating to deal with, but the fact that this is the main reason as to why I would die most times is just unacceptable. This is something that I wasn't just going through by myself. It was a prominent issue that everyone had to deal with, and no matter what workaround we would try to find, it would just never go away. I honestly believe that if this is still present by the time the full launch comes out, and it happens the exact same way that it did in the beta, a lot of players are going to quit this game. It is something that is too much to endure every time we play this game, and it flat out kills the experience 100%. So I would say that Treyarch needs to fully understand how big of an issue it is and do whatever is necessary to make packet bursting go away. Another big issue with this game is the spawns. I feel like I'm starting to sound like a broken record when it comes to this topic, because I'm starting to think that the spawns are just getting worse and worse with every COD game that comes out. Now, while I do believe that there isn't necessarily such thing as a COD game that has good spawns, I just think that some games are better than others when it comes to this. I'm not sure if it's because of the way these maps are structured, but the spawns in this game flip almost every 10 seconds, no matter what game mode you're playing. Even in games where I feel like we had good map control and no one is forcing spawns to flip, it still ends up happening. Treyarch claimed that they fixed the spawn logic going into the second weekend of the beta, but I honestly think that one of the two things happened with that. Either they didn't change anything, or they made them worse, because it was still an issue. Hopefully by the time the game comes out, it'll be a little bit better. We'll just have to wait and see for that. Which brings me to the maps. This is my personal opinion, so I'm not sure if anybody else is going to agree with me on this one, but these maps are pretty mediocre, honestly. There wasn't a time where I was looking forward to playing on any of the maps that they provided in the beta. There was just something about these maps that were just off to me. I can't really describe it. It had to be the way that they were structured, because for the most part, they seemed to be 3-lane, but at the same time, they weren't. Like, it's weird. I know. but I think it can explain as to why the spawns were so bad on these maps. Not to mention that we've only gotten smaller maps except for maybe Rewind, but even with a map like Rewind, majority of the gunfights are in the buildings, which are super clustered. I'm hoping that the rest of the maps aren't like this, but from what I've seen online, it seems that most of the maps are going to be like the ones that we got in the beta, and I don't know how that'll be perceived by the community. And the last thing on my list is pretty quick, so I won't ramble on too much about it, but Kill Order is not a good game mode. And it seems that Treyarch was trying to force feed us with this mode, because most of the time that I was searching for a match, I just kept getting Kill Order non-stop. The game mode is essentially just Hot Shot from X-Defiant, but I just don't think it works well in this game. I was also very upset that we didn't get Search and Destroy in the beta, mainly because we had it in the last beta, so not having it this go around was very odd to me. So I think that's all I can really think about off the top of my head on what I liked and didn't like about the game. I'm sure that there's something that I'm missing, but I think that the topics that I mentioned are good enough that a lot of us can acknowledge. Some of the things that I do want to see come back to the game are very minuscule, like a kill counter at the bottom of the screen. Hopefully we get more interesting kill streaks, things like that, where it doesn't make a big difference to the gameplay, but just quality of life stuff that were in older games that I don't think needed to be changed or removed. So with all of that being said, I do want to say that Black Ops 6 is overall a solid game. At its base, it's really fun and has a ton of potential to be far greater. Like I said previously, there are those issues that need to be addressed right away, and that'll be the key to making this a great Call of Duty game in recent years. So if I had to give the beta a rating out of a 10, I would give it a decent 7. When the game comes out, I'll be dropping more videos on it, exploring new things that weren't introduced in the beta, like zombies, other multiplayer game modes, definitely a lot of Search and Destroy gameplay with the boys, and I might also record the campaign for this game, but I'm not entirely sure yet because the process of recording and uploading campaigns just take way too long for my liking, but who knows. Anyways, that will basically wrap up this video. I do hope I was able to provide some kind of insight with this review. Again, I'm not really a review kind of channel, and I've also said this before that my experience and my opinions on the game shouldn't influence your decision on whether or not you want to play this game. I would say to just try it out for yourself, and if the game is enjoyable for you, then by all means, go for it. If not, that's also fine. So with all of that being said, if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to leave a like, and I will also like for you guys to drop comments telling me on how you feel about the game, if you have played it, share your experiences, and if you feel like there was something that I should have added into my assessment, please feel free to share it. I actually want to see how other people have responded to this game. It'll be very interesting to see what you guys have to say. And that'll do it for this video. Gonna be signing off. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.